am going to call to order. This meeting is being recorded by the Appointments and Ordinances Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time in accordance with MGL Section 30A SS 20G. No person shall address a meeting of a public body without permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting of a public body. If after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting, and if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. Okay. Roll call. Counselor Gilmore?
Here.
Counselor Golub? Here. Counselor Healy?
Here.
Counselor Bullock, I am here. Counselor Rickett?
Present.
It's on time. And the first order of business is to accept the minutes from October 11th, 2023.
So moved, Ricketts.
I just need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the next thing, there's no public hearings tonight. We do have two people present. I will take public comment if you're coming to, if you have something to say.
Now?
Yes. Can you just state your name?
Yes,
and
I'm Gary Sullivan, Evercourt. I'm here interested in the agenda item about the public comment, particularly. And if you're willing to allow me to participate in that discussion item, which is allowed under the rules, I would save my comments for then.
I won't allow a discussion tonight, but I will allow you to give us 3 minutes of public comment here.
Now.
Yes.
Yeah, not when we're talking, right.
Yeah, so that is allowed under the rules by the chair or by a majority vote. And that was one thing I wanted to just mention, because I see that as similar to public comment. And I was looking for a way to bring life back into that reality, because I've seen, I would say, Penny, you may have a same or different viewpoint, but like pretty much over the last 10 years, that's sort of gone fallow. It doesn't get used much. So that's one idea that I have that's sort of related. I know it's not directly related. And the other thing, and the reason why I would continue my request to be able to participate in the other specific thing about the public comment at meetings, is that there's a number of items. I think the way it's written, if the committee and the council wants to do that, I'm sure it will work fine the way it is written, but it could be improved that would make it more durable, make it so that it couldn't be interpreted wrongly, and make it so that all of the rules work better together. So it's really dotted I's and T's that I have for suggestions. And I don't want to overuse my time. I'm not keeping track of it. You'll let me know.
You have 2 minutes. You're good.
So like and I'm also not going to try and think and talk at the same time and refer to my notes, but like one of the things that would sort of be like housekeeping is that the words that are proposed refer to a subcommittee. And in your rules of procedure, this is a committee, it's not a subcommittee. So that's just like an easy thing to clean up. And there are a number of things like that. It refers to section A, which are referred to as a subsection. It's not a subsection, it's just section A. And I think that such a reference, it's better when the language matches exactly. So the proposed language has some improvements. I think there's one, I can dig it out of my phone, okay, about the public comment to be relevant. And so Jasper's proposed words that make more sense, but they aren't the same. So when you go to correlate it to A, there could be misinterpretations that could be fixed. by removing, changing the word proposed or changing the words in A. To be better. And I looked at all that. I have ideas that would be, might be useful to you if you want to go down that rabbit hole. So the thing that I said first, how much time do I have now? A minute?
Yeah, you have about 40 seconds.
The notion, like the statement of chairs that you just read,
Mhm.
I think it could be improved to be more friendly and functional. And I had a conversation with Clerk Scott today, trying to figure out who has the authority to make those words. I understand it's reference to Mass General Law that we aren't changing. But those words, I believe, are the purview of the executive branch and all the boards and commissions and of the council. So I have ideas about how to change those words that would make it feel a little bit just friendlier, like, hey, in my draft of what those words could be, the last sentence is, thank you for coming.
Mhm.
Rather than, Councilor Bullock, how you just read it, I've heard it read that way a bunch of times. And it's sort of a turnoff, nothing about you when you're reading. It's just sort of like technicalities and scolding.
Mhm.
Like, how can we make it more friendly?
Thank you.
My ideas.
Great.
310, sorry.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming, and if you do have written notes, please do forward them to the committee, because we will review them for sure.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was gonna say, that if you have all these changes that you think are gonna be better, it'd be better if you just draft that. And if you send it to the clerk's office, it'll go to all counselors. And then we don't, not that I don't want to have this kind of talk back and forth, but like you said, I don't want to keep referring to my notes, but if we had it, we all would have the same thing. And, yeah, thank you.
Great. Does anyone online want to speak?
I just want to say hi to Quill.
Hi.
Thank you.
That's David Singer, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I think I've seen you on some of Mom's calls before.
Yeah, you have definitely.
Also, Mom, what's the meeting about again?
I'll tell you. Just pay attention, you'll figure it out.
I'm gonna quiz you tomorrow, so you
Not
better.
about public comment.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to motions.
Yep.
We have order number FY 24-037. The city council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council pursuant to Charter Section 2-10 affirms the following appointments and reappointments by the mayor. Appointments, Commission on Disability Access, Anthony Stanford, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Conservation Commission, Elizabeth Garofalo, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Franklin County Technical School Committee, Matt Dooley, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Franklin County Technical School Committee, George Vandelander, term to expire December 31st, 2026. GSET Board of Commissions, Erin Donnelly Drake, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Greenfield Local Cultural Council, Kate Hunter, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Greenfield Local Cultural Council, Lou Marie Judge, term to expire December 31st, 2026. There's also reappointments, Conservation Commission, Tavis Drury, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Council on Aging, Patricia Jordan, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Council on Aging, Linda Smith, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Greenfield Local Cultural Council, Tim Fisk, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Parking and Traffic Commission, Jim Geisman, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Trustees of Soldiers Memorial, John Ambo, term to expire December 31st, 2026. Majority vote required.
I second all of that.
Thank you. And I'm going to open it to discussion. I will start by just saying that I've had a handful of discussions over the last 2 weeks about this and thought about it a lot. I am going to vote no on these new appointments. I will be voting, we'll split them when we get to council floor, but I'll vote no, I'm gonna vote no on the appointments and I will vote yes on the reappointments. The reason I am gonna do that is because in thinking about it, although I do think that the current mayor is probably doing what she sees as her diligence in making these appointments in the final days, I really do want to give our incoming mayor the ability to make appointments as necessary to move forward the work of commissions and committees in the city that she sees fit. And I think there's two things here. There's the mayor doing her diligence and using the charter to appoint these new people, and there's also the will of the council to vote 9 votes to not and allow our incoming mayor to do these new appointments. So I am definitely open to discussion and hearing other people's point of view on this one.
Go ahead.
You good? Yeah. Yeah, I want to kind of echo that. I first want to thank everyone who put their names forward. It's a lot of work to serve on any board or commission. And so I want to underscore gratitude for everyone for putting their names forward, and want to say that the reason I will be voting no is not because of any of the individuals, but because the timing seems inappropriate. To me, these seats many of them have been empty for a long time, and this is the longest list in the year and a half since I've been on this committee that I have seen. It strikes me as inappropriate that we're receiving this list days before the mayoral transition happens. And so in order, again, to echo what Councilor Bullock said, to give the new administration the chance to do their work and I'm hoping that the people who put their names forward will reapply, not that I want any of them to not be appointed. I do want to add to this that I am concerned and feel the one I do feel quite conflicted about is the GSET appointment. I really like and I'm very, very grateful for all of Erin Donnelly Drake's work in Greenfield, and I have nothing against her as an individual, but as a counselor from Precinct 1, it does seem important to me that the appointee to GSET be from an underserved community, whether that's from one of the precincts that hasn't been served by GSET or one of the apartment buildings. I think that that's very important. And so I feel specifically conflicted about that appointee if Erin's name came forward again. Yeah. And I want to hear more about the rationale for voting yes on the reappointees or on the, thing.
Sheila?
Yeah, I'm having some really similar thoughts. I was gonna vote no on the reappointees also, because I think that we've got a brand new administration coming in, and we're always trying to get, new perspectives and new voices. And maybe she would choose to reappoint all of these folks. I don't know what she would choose because we're not looking at that tonight. I'm also really concerned because I feel like your average Greenfield resident is probably assuming that nothing is going to happen during this transition period. And if they wanted to serve, they were probably waiting until January. And I feel like that's going to limit our pool of candidates in a way that feels unfair because a lot of these are 3-year appointments. So anyone who might have been excited about starting with, a brand new mayor who's going to have, brand new priorities, maybe they were excited about that. That's kind of a bucket of cold water to tell them, yeah, come back in 3 years. So I'd really just like to start fresh in January.
Anyone else?
Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna vote yes on all the folks that have been put forward. and all the reappointments. I know many of these people, and they don't all track to one side or the other of a fence. And I think that's what I like about it, is how diverse it is. And I think to vote no and stuff, I would probably, if I wanted to vote no, which I don't want to, I would do more homework and just ask when all these people did apply and how long they've been in there. And especially like for reappointments, that paperwork goes out long before to see if you want to. Some people just say, no, they don't even want to be. But that's not just all a given. They have to go through the whole process of being reappointed. And so if I really cared and I was worried about this, I would do it that way. And then I look at the flip side, after this goes, and we get another new administration, and then that happens again, if this mayor does the same, the new mayor does the same thing and put people in place, you know, would the appointment commission at that time just go ahead and let it move forward? Or are we just drastically thinking about all these changes? And so I'm just going to go yes. Just because I do know these people, and like I said, it's not from one pool or they were ever on one side or another on certain topics. So I like the diversity of it. But this is for a full council, so that's great. Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, I would lean in favor to what Councilor Ricketts was saying. So having served on previous committees in the town, city, it's tough to even find volunteers, and we should be grateful for the ones that have come forward. In retrospect to the GSAT appointment, I think Erin Drake is a great choice. She's a hard worker. She's exactly the person we want on that committee, right? So it's tough to say that you would get a different set of applicants because it's a different mayor. The people that apply don't apply because it's the mayor who's the mayor. They apply because they want to serve the community, right? So for me, it's a yes here.
Yep.
I think I'll just follow up with one thing. I've sat on many committees here. I mean, on human rights for 22 years. I never went on any of these boards, planning board, school committee, or anything, except for that I wanted it. So none of these people were put in place here. And now it's like, guess what? You better show up to this meeting. They have to like it first. It's going to be something that they actually want to do. So Councilor Healy, I totally agree with you. It's not like just pick all your friends and put them there, even though every administration from little town all the way up to president, that's what they actually do. But I can look at this list and see it wasn't done at all. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I will just say too that I don't actually know any of these people, so I feel lucky to be in this position that I'm not basing my decision
But saying no.
on, yeah, I don't know them and I'm saying no. Because my decision isn't actually based on the people. I did read all of the supporting materials. The majority of these appointments came through after the election, except for one, I believe. And the supporting materials on everyone looked great. Like based on those materials, I would have no problem appointing them. My decision here is based off of the fact that there's a lot of important appointments that are coming into this position. Ideally, if we were in an ideal situation, I think we would have a robust transition plan happening between the current administration and the incoming administration. I did inquire to find out if like meetings were happening, if the incoming mayor was invited to weigh in on these appointments and things like that. And I want to make sure that our incoming administration is set up appropriately to meet the goals that are set forth. And that doesn't mean that these people can't do that. I just think that some of these are very important appointments, especially the GSET board. And I don't know that person, so I can't say she's inappropriate appointment, but I agree with your statements. And I also want to agree with Councillor Gilmore, what you said, because I did speak to a few people that have two people specifically that were interested in the cultural council who asked if there was vacancies. And I had said, oh, yes, there's vacancies. They'll probably be appointed in the new year. And then this came across our email. So I do think we should allow for a renewed engagement process for people that haven't been engaged prior and in new ways, that the city hasn't engaged and done outreach for boards and commissions. So I think it's an opportunity for us to broaden our pool or to reappoint these people in similar ways that our current mayor has vetted, right? Like our current mayor for appointments and reappointments we've heard has done phone interviews or in-person interviews and that sort of thing. And I think especially with a few of these key appointments, that would be very useful. Sheila and
Yeah.
Derek, are these remaining hand? You have new one, new
Mine is,
comments?
mine's a new hand.
Okay.
So I do want to respectfully disagree with Derek because I've had constituents reach out to me who had asked to be appointed, who their names never came to us, even though there was a vacancy. They were disliked by the outgoing mayor. And so we never even got to vet them. And I think that that's really unfortunate. I hope that doesn't happen with the next administration, but I am looking at this through that lens. We had someone who very, very publicly came to us. That was Jesus Leyva. The other ones, I'm not willing to name. So this process hasn't been very transparent up until now. I want to make sure that we're giving everyone a fresh start. I think, if we're using Jesus as an example, and I haven't spoken to him recently, so I don't even know what his intentions are. But if he had been turned down to be appointed several times and then thought, well, maybe I'll try again in January with a new mayor. I mean, I'm concerned about that. I think that that's something that we should be thinking about. I will say, on the other hand, that it is difficult to block appointments. And if these don't get blocked, I do want to point out, and I love this person. He is lovely. Travis Drury is on CPC, and that's one of the ones where you can't be on anything else. So if he's on there as a representative of the Conservation Commission, then that's fine. But if not, he can't serve on both. So if we could separate that one out, I'm not saying I'm going to vote for any of the appointments, but just as a matter of like keeping everything like legal and within the charter, could we please separate him out from the other ones until we figure out his status? Because he might not know that, and maybe these positions work together hand in glove. But I just want to make sure we're doing it all right.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Gomer. I really appreciate that you always know the procedural pieces of this. I do feel like at some point, but I can't remember what I was reading. It was before the Chairs Committee, but is there a representative from CPC on the Conservation Commission?
I don't know.
I'll do research before our next meeting and find out, but for now we can hold that name out. Just two more points that I just wanted to bring up. One is that, I mean, many of you hopefully will remember that I asked for there to be a transparent process for this, like about 6 months ago, that there could be somewhere where the public could see all of the applicants and when they came in. I think that's like a simple form process we could create so that it is transparent who's applying and when, and the public can see who applied and how often and why, the merits of why people are chosen. And then the other thing I just want to bring up is that I do think it's important to just note that although I do assume that this is I'm assuming goodwill on our current mayor's part and that her intention was to do diligence and in not leaving vacancies as she exited her position. But I also just want to say that this current election received a 75% support of the incoming mayor. And I do think that is a mandate of some kind to say that, the people want some choice in this, and I'm hoping there'll be a transparent process moving forward so that it feels like there's more voice.
Okay, and I would just like to add that 75%, that's true, of the people who showed up. Lowest election I've seen in forever. And the other thing I'd like to bring up is for everybody who did apply for these, I keep hearing it over and over and over again. And so as someone who's been involved for many years, I'm so sorry people are hearing there are some important commissions and boards. They are all important, every one of them to me. And they play a role and people care about what happens at parking. And they care about the cultural. So I'm so sorry that keeps being said. I'm glad people's names are forward. Everything's important and it makes the entire city work, not just GSET or something else.
Derek, did you have something else?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's something I might not be understanding about the reappointment process because I haven't gone through that. You were mentioning, you were talking about the
You
reappointment.
don't just get reappointed, you get asked if you even want to be reappointed.
Okay,
Everyone gets a letter when their time is over to see if they want to be. Some people send it back, some people don't.
okay. And then does everyone who wants to be reappointed have the opportunity to be reappointed, or does that not? That the mayor has the decision-making power, correct? About, I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this process. They may want to be reappointed, but it's ultimately up to the mayor to reappoint.
Right, because sometimes, I mean, I can remember in the past, I can remember Mayor 4G and Mayor Martin not reappointing some people,
Right,
but I don't think they even sent the letter out because they knew.
okay,
So, because remember, every administration, as you keep saying and doing it from the rooftops, because it's like the first election or something to some people, that every mayor has what they know, what they want to be there. So when they get in, the same could be true. Now, there's people that are in places that they may not like, so they will wait and they may not send out the next reappointment letter for the next time. So I've seen it both ways. I've seen people who want to be reappointed and they weren't, but there was a lot of people. I know on the Human Rights Commission, there's been a couple times that the people that were actually on the commissions were the ones who didn't want certain people reappointed and put back in place. And people thought there was all these other reasons for what was going on, and it wasn't that. It was the chair at the time. So there's a lot that's going on.
okay, thank you. And did you want to share why you were wanting to vote yes on the reappointments? I don't think I heard that.
I think that when I looked at the reappointment list, these are largely people who have been in these roles for a period of time, and are actively engaged in projects within those committees and councils. And so, I just felt like it would be more of a, I want to say that I think that what both of you said, and maybe you said too, Sheila, about like, these people might be great people and it feels bad to vote no against anyone every month. I feel like anytime that has arisen, I feel bad because we need people on these commissions and committees, but, that there's projects going on in some of these committees that have reappointments. And so to pull someone out seems, and like I said, the charter says this is what the mayor does. And the charter also says we can vote it down by 9 votes. So like both are fair game.
Right, because if I'm correct, isn't Erin Donnelly, Councilor Gilmore, Erin Donnelly Drake, is she the one who's on the whole charter commission committee? She put that
She
in place.
was.
She went to more
Yeah.
meetings than other members that were there. I mean, she was way invested and rewrote lots of it. So that's why, I have a problem with some of this, because I understand what everybody's saying, but I think you do have to look at the history, because I understand there's a transition, but I would hate to see all these different committees and stuff have to go through a transition as well. Because some of these people have worked really hard at what they're doing and they've done the homework.
Oh, Erin Donnelly Drake she's an asset to our community.
Huge, yeah.
I don't think there are very many people yeah, there aren't a lot of people in town that I think are better qualified than her to do anything. She is so capable. She is so dedicated. She cares about her neighbors. She is a model candidate for anything. And that's not why I'm voting against her. It's just we've got a new mayor coming in. And like I said, I mean, no, I didn't say it. Mary Ann said it. This was a landslide. I mean, no incumbent mayor has ever lost by such a large margin. So we need to respect that. And I think that Erin is going to understand that. And I'm happy to tell her to her face, you know?
So we should
And I
just move
I
on,
think she would understand my reasons.
people's names out.
Yeah, I do think, and when we bring this to council floor, what I'm hoping is that we cannot address the individuals on council floor, but we can discuss this as on the merits of do we vote yes for reappointments or do we vote no? It's actually why I didn't separate people out. Some, you know, in the past, we've separated out appointments sometimes when there's been dissent on one. And because actually, like I said, I don't know any of these people and I read through and like, they all sound great, like great people. They've done great work. I think they would do great work or will do great work for the city. And for the appointment slate, if there was, for the appointment slate, if there was a longer space of time before this transition and the next vote could happen to affirm these appointments, I would be concerned, but because we're talking about, you know, like 15 or 25 days, I'm not so concerned about it.
Actually,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry to beat a dead horse. Could we also
That's all right,
separate
good.
out George Vandelander? Because he's a city employee, so I'm not sure if he can serve on a board.
Hasn't he retired?
Yes, he
Oh, he
retired with his
retired.
wife. Yep.
Yeah, he retired.
Oh,
Just going for people, that's what I mean. We could ask questions. There's so
no,
much
that's great.
we
No,
could-
congratulations to
we
him. No,
could
I just
do.
didn't know if town
Yeah.
employees could serve on boards. That's all.
Yeah, I have one more comment as well that, so we also got to remember that these boards consist of multiple people and terms are staggered. It's not like everybody starts at the same time either. So even if you appointed somebody, it doesn't mean there's not going to be another opportunity for the new mayor to appoint somebody for 3 years. Just, you got to keep that in the back of your mind too. You know, what, some of these terms might end in another year, right? It all depends on when you are appointed.
That is true. I will say that I went through the list of committees, and some of these committees would not have another appointment for 2 years. So I just think it's important for us to think about what I thought about was the priorities of our incoming mayor. I know one of her priorities specifically is around equity and GSET. And so I think that appointment is really important. There was some other ones that had long spans of time before there would be another reappointment in that area, which is why I said, let's hold all the appointments and not parse out. Let's just say, let's hold everyone and let's trust that if these are qualified, our incoming mayor will move them through as she sees fit, or identify key folks for new appointments that she wants. And I think that I am going to ask to separate these out, and I do believe strongly in voting yes for the reappointments to keep those projects rolling, and no for the appointments to allow our mayor. And that actually seems like a very fair division of will. Whether that matters at this point in the game, I don't know, but that our current mayor has done her diligence and done these reappointments to keep projects flowing, and that we allow the reappointments in some of these key areas to be chosen by our incoming administration. Any more discussion before we take a vote? Okay, we will take a vote first on the appointments. So all those in favor of the appointments,
Aye.
Aye.
all those against?
No,
No? Okay.
And just remember, Counselor Gwen is president, so he'll be explaining this all again for the 400th time to the new council, that you never are voting against it. So we'll wait to council floor so he can explain what the process is.
Can you explain what you mean by never vote against it?
Yes, we're just affirming.
We are, but the charter allows for the council to vote down by 9.
Right. So, but he just wants to be, because remember, he had asked for that all last year and this year, that if we are going to do that, just to let him know ahead of time, so it's a heads up.
That we were
So
gonna,
I don't believe in it because I feel like people can do it on the council floor, so it's fine, but that's not how the current president does appointments. I do. I don't think there's a problem. I voted once not to appoint somebody, but that's because of racist behavior that was going on. But the rest of the council did, and that was fine. He just has a different way, so that's all I said. I don't know if you've had the conversation with him already about your thoughts on this, but it's fine. It happens on council floor. We think about it differently. Councilor Gwen wants to know ahead of time. I feel like doing it right on council floor is fine.
oh yeah, he'll
No, I
get
think-
report, he'll get the
so
report.
actually, my recollection was a little different. I think he wanted to know ahead of time if we were gonna separate folks out. Like I had talked about the one from the Conservation Committee being separated out because of community preservation. And you know, I retract my statement about the Franklin County Technical School Committee because I didn't realize that that person had retired. So he wanted to know about those ahead of time.
Right,
But when we
remember?
vote no, like we don't have to like notify the council president when we're gonna
No,
vote a
I'm not
certain way.
speaking of, I'm that. I was talking about when Councilor Wheeler brought remember when he brought something up and he wanted it to be a no?
Right.
And then he started the whole thing and then,
Yeah, so separating out the names, yes, yes. Okay, I
Yes,
understand what
and-
you're saying now.
And
Yep,
I will absolutely let
right,
President Gwynn know that I am separating the appointments and the reappointments. And that we will probably take Travis Drury out of the reappointments if it conflicts with the
rule.
rule to allow him on
Right.
both committees. Okay, so now all those in favor of the reappointments,
Aye.
I'm gonna say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so me, Derek and Penny, all those against?
No.
no,
Catherine. Sheila. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, so we have a split on that one. Okay, we are going to move to a discussion on amending the rules of procedure around section 565-12, public participation, new subsection C. And this says, here it is. Move that it be ordered that the following change to the city council's rules of procedure. In Rule 12, public participation, new section C, at all regular meetings of city council subcommittees, the agenda shall provide for a period of public comment under the same rules as in subsection A, except that the chair may ask speakers to limit their remarks to matters generally under the purview of the committee to which they are being made. So this was a proposal by Counselor Lapinski. It does not need someone to sponsor because he is a counselor, but is not present tonight. Is there any other counselor who would like to comment on this?
Yeah, so I would like to say, that it coming from Council Lapinski is the hardest part of it for me. Just because for 2 years, he has not served on 2 committees like everyone else on council. Yet he wants to make sure we have public comment at every subcommittee meeting. So I get what he's saying because he wants the public to weigh in on everything. At the same time, I don't think he ever understands what all the committees really do. And there's times like we really need to get business done. I don't mind it. I just hope the language will work, that it's going to be about what's on the agenda, and it cannot be just whatever the public wants to talk about, because I could think about the whole home equity thing we're going through right now. Well, you could go to Ways and Means and figure that has something to do with it. You can go to CRE and talk about it. You can come to A&O because you want us to do that. So those people will say the exact same thing, and they can come to every single subcommittee meeting. And then we have full council and they get to speak again. So it's not that I'm trying to stop anybody from speaking. I just feel like we should just be careful because people put in a lot of time. I mean, I believe it's going to be, isn't it going to be next week when people are going to have like Ways and Means and then full council in the same week? And then CRE is going to be a few days after that. And people have to just understand that it's a lot of hours that people put in, and it's the same group of people who go because they have full council and they each have 2. So I think it coming from the person who doesn't serve on anything except for council, like I think this year he's doing CRE and last year he didn't do any because of COVID. So it's just a problem for me. So I think if we set aside time at every subcommittee meeting that we have, and they have 3 minutes, that'll be fine. I think the part that is hard about doing it is it's not a back and forth. And sometimes people feel like, what do you guys think? And we can never speak because it's not a 2-way street. It's only a public comment. And I get that. I mean, I feel bad when it happens at even full council. That's why I always say thank you after every single person speaks. But it's, so that's my thought. That's my thought on it, that if it's not just based on the agenda of that day, I think as long as we stay in the 3-minute rule, it could be at every subcommittee meeting. But I just feel bad for people who, I'm going to pick Ways and Means just because, especially on budget season, those are very long, long meetings. And so if public comment is happening that day and it has nothing to do with any of the budget pieces, I feel really bad for that committee because they're putting in a serious amount of time that I would never, ever do. That's why I'm never on Ways and Means, because it's that much work. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Derek, did you have something?
I would agree with Councilor Ricketts again. I think it's important to hear the public engagement, you know, about the topics on the agenda. I do have concerns just from, you know, other experiences where things might go off the wrong way. So I have no disagreement with it, but I want to make sure the wording is appropriate. And just another reminder, just to say, you know, we're all pretty good on this council about checking our emails, right? So if constituents really want us to bring something up, email us, right? That's the best way to get something moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheila?
Yeah, I mean, I have really mixed thoughts on this one. When I was brand new on the council, we did have certain meetings where there was public comment and even a little bit of back and forth at some of our subcommittee meetings, because we were still kind of like, and I'm thinking specifically about the plastic bags.
I knew you, yep, I remember.
Yeah, because I remember with that, there was kind of like some hashing out of details. That was very participatory on certain subcommittees, but I think I agree, like with Councilor Ricketts on Ways and Means. We don't want to hold up during budget season, April and May, when they're meeting long hours, several days a week, trying to prepare the budget. We don't want people to come in talking about topics that aren't on the agenda. And this says, that it should be generally under the purview of the committee. Who decides that? Because you're not going to stop someone in the middle of a comment if they're talking about the price of tea in China, right? And once someone has the microphone, it's hard to get it away. I think that there are some committees like A&O would probably be an appropriate place for public comment. CRE, maybe EDC, depending upon what the topic is, but Ways and Means feels to me like those are things that those are priorities that the community has already identified. Now we're just talking about how we're paying for them. And maybe that's not a place where, it's kind of like, you can't have the public come in and say, oh, well, we don't want to fund, this, that, or the other project because it's already been decided on years in advance. Like the capital budget is done 5 years out, right? So, I mean, I could be brought along. I think that this could be really good. And I think having that engagement is useful. And I think that also having it, at a meeting is more lively than, just getting an email from somebody, especially if it happens to be a busy day for that particular counselor. But I do have some reservations. I mean, I think about there are certain, and it's not certainly not the majority of individuals, but there are certain people who will try to use public comment in places where it's really not appropriate. So I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Yeah, I'm done.
That's okay.
Trying not to repeat people.
Oh, okay.
I want to echo what Councilor Ricketts
It's
shared.
definitely okay.
I don't think there's much anything that you said that I recall disagreeing with. I support it. I think it's important. I want to add that I think it's important that the comments be. I struggle with juggling the amount of hours that we put into this, while also really wanting this to be participatory. But it's a fine line, and it's hard to hold both of those things.
Mhm.
I feel really tired coming into this meeting, and I'm thinking about. I feel a real responsibility to be on Ways and Means next year, to have there be continuity, but it would not be my first choice, but I think I need to do it. Maybe. Anyway, what I want to say about Ways and Means, Sheila, I really appreciate, given how tired I feel just thinking about Ways and Means next year, I really appreciate the intent of what you shared and wanting to safeguard Ways and Means Committee members' energy. And I also want to say that Councilor DeSorger invited public comment at every meeting through the entire budget season, and it never felt like too much. It always felt appropriate. And of course, you all know where I stood on the school funding, but I'm recalling that some of the comments were about issues, specifically the schools, that didn't have to do with the agenda item that night. So I'm holding two things. I'm holding, and I'm not quite sure about the relevant thing. I think it is important. I'm not quite sure because it never felt too much to me to have it be off topic. But even if it was on topic, she allowed the comments and it wasn't too much. So I would want the Ways and Means Committee to have public comment, even though I hear your concerns. Am I making sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's
Definitely.
all I have to say right now.
Yeah, this, I echo like the irony of that this is being produced in a committee when our fellow counselor hasn't done the work on committees and that he's not here tonight to even present this to his fellow counselors to discuss and vote upon. So I echo that, and I think there's merits to this, and as I try to do on council is look at things on their merits, and so I will say that I also appreciate like the amount of hours that I spend doing prep and doing responding to emails and then just being in meetings, and that it feels daunting to add more time to that. But I also really think we have a need for there to be a more robust public engagement opportunities. And we have more avenues than public comment. I think public comment should actually be like the tip of the iceberg and like the rest of the public engagement. I'm hoping that this year we can have a public hearing on public participation in the budgeting process, that we can have a public hearing on equity in the budget, that we can have a public hearing on police accountability. Like there's many areas that I think the public want to respond to. And we have ways we can do it where we can bring panels together to talk about those public hearings, and we can allow for public comment, and we can back and forth in that way. Or at least we can then make comments to the public on what they have spoken about in public hearings. So I think that I'm in favor of moving this to potentially moving it to a motion form if we can get the sponsoring council member to come and propose it. And I also think that there needs to be appropriate wording here that allows for the committee chair to limit public comment to topics on the agenda if they want. And I'll also add, like, I've always allowed public comment here. There was a couple nights where I showed up and I didn't realize something was controversial, and then the room was filled, and I'm like, okay, I thought we were gonna be in a 45-minute meeting, and now we're in a 2-hour and 45-minute meeting. And I do just sort of like acquiesce, and that's a part of my role that I have accepted, even though I had no idea what I was accepting when it started. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so two things. I think I'll bring that back to like the whole recycling. Like until I started seeing all the emails coming in, I knew it was going to be out there, but I didn't know it was going to be out there that big, so that when people came. So I'm somebody who, people can shoot me about this because it's fine. I have a big problem with the copy and paste emails. I'm into quality, not quantity. So even with the schools, for whatever, any of that stuff, whenever I get a ton of them and they all say the same, you give me a new email of what somebody thinks, I love that. And then I want to dovetail back into how we started this whole meeting about the new administration. I'm thinking the new administration may pick this all up and may do public hearings about different things. So I think that I'm gonna wait it out and see what this new mayor is gonna do, because I think that's gonna help this whole public comment piece. Not that I don't think it should come to the council, but you know how many times things come to the council that we have absolutely no authority over. So I think I want to give her time to see what she's going to do to get the community engaged. And I think it's going to help solve this little thing we have right now about, because I know the last council meeting, I ran out afterwards, grabbed something to eat, and these guys were like, "Are you just getting out of that meeting? We left. We didn't want to stay." And I said, "Did you want to speak?" "Well, no, but you guys were just there for 3 more hours?" I'm like, "Yes." And people are so shocked. They don't get it. That's why when there's a whole group of people and it's public comment, I love it. But the biggest thing that we do to ourselves is make multi-million-dollar decisions at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
And that has got to stop. So let's hope that with the council leadership for next year, plus the new mayor, we can figure out a way to do a lot more of this communication. So it just tamps down on some of this. And people have a venue that they can really speak about the things that are most important.
I'm also excited to see public participation, more possibilities for that with the new administration, hopefully that comes forward. I want to say, full stop on that. I'm excited about that. And I would definitely support changing the rules to include public comment at our meetings. If there's revised language that you suggest, please do email it. I think I would love to see that. And would even be, I feel strongly about this. I would even be happy to sponsor it if that ended up being necessary. Yeah, but I don't want to. I'd rather have Jasper sponsor it, sure. But I would like clean language on that.
Caitlin, Derek, are those old hands?
Mine is a new hand.
Okay, go for it.
Penny, I just want to say, like, the copy paste emails, I am with you. I mean, if you feel strongly about a subject, give me a call, send me an email. But when I see the copy pasted emails, I just, yeah, it's frustrating. And by the same token, I'm not saying that I'm against this. The wording needs to be cleaned up, absolutely. But another thing that we can, keep in mind is if we ever have a meeting where we really need to get down to business and we know that we're going to be voting on big ticket items, like Penny just talked about, voting on, our budget at 10:30 at night, that's always posted as a special meeting, and special meetings don't always include public comment. If we're having a meeting like tonight where it's just our regular monthly A&O meeting and we want to have public comment and a couple people come talk to us about, they want to offer support for someone who's being appointed to, a board, or if we're talking about an ordinance and they feel like they have some expertise or they've had an experience that they want us to know about that might be unique. It is really great to get that perspective. But when we have, a single-minded focus on something like, our budget, we need to really get to work while we're still fresh. So that's always going to be an option for us, even if we pass this. So we don't have to worry too much about that. I just wanted to put that out there, but I'd like to see us work on this and find a way to have some meaningful engagement. And I would really rather have more of that back and forth where someone can offer some perspective and counselors could ask questions and say, can you clarify, what do you mean by this? I've never heard of this before. Because I feel like that's the piece that we're missing right now.
Yeah, and the last thing that I'll add that I don't want people to sign up for or do, but when I was vice president and Karen Reno was president, we did public comment one meeting and we did all our voting at the next meeting. We didn't do it in the same night.
Yeah, that terrifies me. I'm like,
Yeah.
one more meeting.
Yep,
But
that's the hard part. But then when we got in there, on the work night, we just worked.
Yeah.
And that was it.
You had full council meetings.
Two folk, but it's just like, the same amount of people, but they only come to public comment. So if they only have 3 minutes, it's like 45 minutes or an hour, but everybody can come and talk. We don't do any business.
But if worse comes to worse, like say you can suspend rules of procedure, correct? And you could remove public comment, or that would not be possible if this was amended in the charter.
Well, if at subcommittee, you don't have to have public comment.
But if it went into the charter,
That's why I'm really careful about saying it, is because I've been on council 10 years, but even before that, when I came, plastic bag, you're right, was the first thing that mattered, because that was always packed here, A&O meeting, and we let it go back and forth, so we didn't have to write it 1,500 times. So what do you want? And then it would go to full council.
Well, we don't have to vote on this tonight because it's, oh, sorry, did you have something, Sheila?
I do. So yes, we can suspend the rules of procedure if we wanted to remove any part of the meeting. Technically. But what a bad look. If we suspended the rules of procedure just to not have public comment, I mean, even if we were doing it for a really good reason, that would really turn people off. And I think the perception would be bad enough that people would stop engaging with us. So I think that it would have to be posted as a special meeting that doesn't have public comment. You know, the way, you know, when we've had to go into executive session to talk about emergencies, you know,
Right.
sometimes the budget, you know, and I've been on for 6 years now. So sometimes the budget has been a regular meeting and sometimes it's been a special meeting. You know, and Penny's history goes back a little bit further than mine, but we've done it a couple different ways. But I think that if you suspend the rules of procedure in the meeting and say there's no public comment, when people are already there, I mean, technically, yes, we can, but wow, would that look
Well,
bad?
That was what I was thinking, was that like if we had a meeting scheduled and it went until 11 PM with public comment and then we adjourned the meeting, or we had, like we did, can't remember which meeting it was that we just did this, but we extended the meeting.
To the next, yep.
Where we just did that with the tax rate.
Yep.
Where we extended the meeting out, like say that first meeting had just been all public comment and then the extension of the meeting, we actually had to like get the work done. We could potentially say like, we're gonna take an hour or 2 hours of public comment and then the rest of this until 11 PM has to be tax rate, because if we don't get this to the, I'm like, I was thinking worst case scenario, really. But I mean, I will just like affirm that I think that anyone who's coming to a subcommittee clearly wants to share their point of view. I'm not overly worried about us having hours and hours of public comment within a subcommittee meeting. And if we do, something needs to shift so that there's more public engagement in other ways.
Yeah.
So what I would like to leave us with is that I will invite Counselor Lapinski to bring this to committee in motion form in the new year and to attend the meeting to present it.
Join the committee too.
And if he wants to, I mean, well, that'll be up to the new organization of the council next year. And so I don't know if I'll be chair of this committee when that happens, but I'm happy to entertain a motion in the new year if it's brought forward. So I'm sure that they'll pick that up for him in the notes. And Tammy or whoever hears this, could you just invite him to the next A&O meeting to present if he sees fit? Perfect. Is there any other new business, old business? Let me just double check here. No. Anything else before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Okay. I